largest brokerage with 60,000 employees, had been battered by nearly $50 billion in mortgage.
It's finally finished. I'm ready to send you the world's first payment of Bitcoin. We're about to make history's first peer-to-peer cashless transaction without a trusted third party. Are you as nervous as I am? I press send, and Bitcoin becomes the existentialist threat to every government and bank on Earth. And my life will be forever changed. If they find out who I am, they'll destroy me, my reputation, and my family. But I know it's worth the risk. Think of the human progress we'll make. The time has come to set the world free.
It would have required an $85 billion subsidy.
One of the biggest mysteries in the technology world is the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, the computer programmer who invented the digital currency Bitcoin. That's because Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonym. It may be the name of one person or the name of a group. But for over 9 years now of Bitcoin's existence, no one has figured out who or what Nakamoto really is. Beyond solving a long-standing mystery, what sort of impact would uncovering Nakamoto's identity actually have?
I want to focus on technology, particularly certain sectors. With the incredible power of modern computing and the internet, we're entering into a new era of innovation. Currently, blockchain is transforming our financial systems, cybersecurity, and how entrepreneurs and startups are able to raise capital. As the rest of the world speeds ahead to take advantage of this new technology, the U.S. is now lagging behind heavily due to regulatory certainty issues that the market needs to protect consumers, empower innovators, and entrepreneurs. My colleagues and I, including Josh Gottheimer, Tulsi Gabbard, Ted Budd, and others that aren't on the committee, Darren Soto and Scott Perry, introduced a bill yesterday that would provide regulatory certainty the U.S. needs to take advantage of this thriving sector. Mr. Solomon, I'm going to read an excerpt from an article that recently caught my attention. Quote, Goldman Sachs planned to establish a crypto-focused unit by the end of 2018, as reported by Bloomberg in December last year. However, on September 5th, Business Insider reported that unnamed sources said the firm is scrapping crypto trading desk plans due to an unclear regulatory environment in the crypto industry. Mr. Solomon, why did Goldman Sachs initially choose to open a crypto trading desk?
The first article wasn't correct. Like others, we're watching and exploring and doing work in terms of trying to understand the cryptocurrency market as it develops. We have some clients that have certain functionality that we've engaged with them on, clearing physical futures. But other than that, we never had plans to open a cryptocurrency trading desk. We might at some point in time, but there's no question when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, it's a new area, there are a lot of issues, it is unclear from a regulatory perspective, and it's not clear whether or not, in the long run, as a currency, those technologies are going to work and be viable.
Clearly, and certainly some of those tokens that are issued are awaiting definition as to what will be a security, what is not a security, what's the appropriate trading platform. There are a number of issues that our bill goes into, and frankly, even things that will be needed to addressed afterward. Mr. Diamond, in 2017, you called cryptocurrencies, quote, not a real thing. But this year, your firm unveiled JPM Coin and stated, quote, we are supportive of cryptocurrencies as long as they are properly controlled and regulated. Why the shift?
So the blockchain is real. It's a technology. A lot of people are using it and testing it today, and we think it will work over time. But the part that's not real is the cryptocurrency is not supported by anything. There's no value behind it other than what the next person will pay for it. And they have serious issues about that. The JP Morgan coin is a token which is supported by a deposit at JP Morgan. So it can be shipped around the world real time. It can go with a lot of data on it. You can split it into pieces, and the second someone wants cash, we can move the cash to.
So the settlements will happen almost instantaneously, and there will be a blockchain distributed ledger. And how will that facilitate better payment systems if it works correctly?
Yeah, well, the payment systems today, they do work and they're very cheap. But the fact is, this might be a faster way. It could be faster. It comes with data. and everyone would have the same data at the same time. So instead of us having to call each other's banks up and saying, what happened to that shipment from Singapore, we just go to the same screen and see it right away.
Because of the nature of the blockchain, it's inherently more transparent.
Yes, it's got to be secure, and it's got to be, in this case, permissioned. Not everyone can access it because we need real security around things like movement of money.
Thank you very much.
I'm David Schwartz. I'm the chief cryptographer at Ripple. Presentation is on enabling the Internet of Value, by which we mean being able to move value as easily as we move information. So what is this blockchain thing that we're all so excited about? Well, it's a new technology that presented itself as Bitcoin. And I think we see an analogy with the first developments of other technologies, where there was just some product that embodied that technology. But as the technology matured, we got different designs aimed at different use cases. We have, in the analogy, we have a vehicle for moving heavy objects. We have a vehicle that's more of like a sports car, and so on. So the design focused on the use case rather than just one design that fits every use case. Right now, we have something like 1,500 blockchain-based tokens, and they're fighting over what use cases they're focused on, whether it's payments, trade finance, whatever use case. And we looked at a number of use cases for blockchains, including things like securities trading, lending, smart contracts, insurance, and a long list of them.
Days of overstuffed wallets in your back pocket or purse might soon come to an end. By 2020, mobile wallets on our smartphones are expected to surpass the use of credit and debit cards in the U.S. That has already happened in China. Ben Tracy is in Beijing to show us what a nearly cashless society actually looks like. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. So when I moved here to China a couple of months ago, I kept getting funny looks every time I would pull cash out of my wallet to pay for things. And then I got one of these. It's a code on my phone, and now I can basically buy anything here in China. When you pay for something, how do you pay for it?
Mobile phone.
On the streets of Beijing, cash is definitely not king. What do you think of people who use cash to pay for things?
That's rare and weird, he says. Only the elderly and people who don't know how to use a phone pay cash. This woman says, I rarely take my wallet when I go out, just my phone. That's because those phones can buy just about anything, from clothes in the store to steamed buns on the street. They're used to pay for bike rides and bus rides, rent and utility bills.
When was the last time you used cash? A month ago? Wow, that's a long time.
WeChat and Alipay dominate China's mobile market, and payments on their platforms totaled more than $5.5 trillion last year, a 200% jump from the year before, and nearly 50 times more than the value of mobile payments in the U.S.
One of the big reasons mobile payments have caught on so quickly here in China is because of what most people here don't have in their wallets: credit cards. They basically went from a cash-based society to a cashless one and skipped the step in between.
China has leapfrogged the U.S. into going to a cashless society.
Andy Mock is an economist in Beijing. He says China's cashless revolution has happened in just 3 years, largely thanks to these things called QR codes. You simply scan them with your phone to pay. Nearly every business and person has one. From the farmer's market to the musician on the street playing for a mobile tip.
You can give a homeless person money with your phone. You would never see that in the U.S.
All you have to do is scan that code to transfer money. And it really is ubiquitous in China, from the largest cities, the fanciest hotels, to the most humble street-side shacks will all use QR codes.
The Chinese are comfortable doing everything on their phones, while in the U.S., credit cards and online shopping via personal computers still rule.
These kinds of legacy technologies make any adoption of newer generations of technologies much more slower. So in this sense, I think the U.S. has a little bit of catching up to do.
A recent survey found that 40% of Chinese people carry less than $15 on them, but they would never dream of leaving home without this. As one guy told me on the street, you can't achieve anything without your phone.
The need to move money from place to place, the cost of doing so, the overhead, as you put it, makes me think, believe it or not, of Bitcoin, because some people have said, hey, Bitcoin is the answer to those problems. Are you a believer?
Well, Bitcoin is
exciting because it shows how cheap it can be. Bitcoin is better than currency in that you don't have to be physically in the same place. And of course, for large transactions, currency can get pretty inconvenient. The customers we're talking about aren't trying to be anonymous. You know, they're willing to be known. So the Bitcoin technology is key, and you could add to it, or you could build a similar technology where there's enough attribution that people feel comfortable. This has nothing to do with terrorism or any type of money laundering.
So what does Buffett not like right now? That would be Bitcoin. He says that Bitcoin right now looks a little bit tulip-like to him.
It's not a currency. I mean, it does not meet the test of a currency. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not around in 10 or 20 years.
Why does it not meet the definition of a currency?
Well, because people say, well, I'll sell you goods in Bitcoins, but they change the price of those every time the price of the dollar changes in relation to Bitcoin. They're pricing off the dollar. They could say, well, I'll sell it to you in barrels of oil, but if every time the price of oil changes, they change the number of barrels you have to have. That's not, your oil is not the currency.
The other
technology breaks Orwell's dictum. It breaks Orwell's dictum by providing proof of publishing at a certain time. And that is the intellectual underpinning of that whole system and can be used for lots and lots of other things. And so that's the big expansion we're about to see in Bitcoin. All derives from this basic premise that you can prove that a particular statement, a particular consensus, a particular contract happened at a particular time globally. And it requires the subversion of every single jurisdiction where people are running Bitcoin to overturn that.
Am I right in understanding that you're saying that the Bitcoin architecture has applications far beyond the economic role that Bitcoin can play, and that architecture is very strengthening to the life of information in the digital space, making it less vulnerable to the kind of mischief you talked about in Russia or elsewhere? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly. That underlying architecture can be used for publishers, for example, so that, as an example, we are starting to use Bitcoin WikiLeaks, stuffing our cryptographic keys of stuff that we publish. So we prove that we have published stuff at a particular time by stuffing it in Bitcoin, in the blockchain. And then if someone were to come and try and modify the material that we have published to take out particular parts, that would be detectable.
Do you think Bitcoin will be disruptive in that way? I mean, now it's a speculative currency. Will it be something that will be what normal consumers will use and will disrupt the banking industry?
My opinion of Bitcoin is that, I think Bitcoin is probably a good thing, but it's essentially, its main thing will be, I mean, this will probably get quoted here and there, but I think it's primarily going to be a means of doing illegal transactions. But that's not necessarily entirely bad, because some things should be, maybe shouldn't be illegal. But
the combination of Silk Road and Bitcoin will save us?
Well, it will be useful for legal and illegal transactions. Otherwise, it would have no value as a use of for a legal transaction, because you have to have a legal to illegal bridge. Yeah. I don't own any Bitcoin.
In fact, one can pay for a tour on Virgin Galactic up to the moon with Bitcoin. I think the Winklevoss twins have said that they would do exactly that. Do you think this is a currency that's really going to work eventually?
Well, I think it is working, and there will be other currencies like it that may be even better. But in the meantime, there's a big industry around Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And people have made fortunes out of Bitcoin. Some people have lost money out of Bitcoin.
It's volatile. It's volatile.
Yeah, but it is quite volatile. But when in volatility, people can make money out of volatile situations.
Why was it important for you to give it sort of that stamp of approval, that endorsement, by saying to the Winklevoss twins, yes, you can pay for the ride with Bitcoin?
Because I'm not foolish. I mean, if people have got lots of bitcoins and they want to go to space, I'd much rather they spent that money on our spaceship. Whether I keep it in bitcoins is another matter. But I'd much rather they spent that money on a Virgin Galactic spaceship than on, Elon will be sending people to space one day on Elon's spaceship. So we'll grab the money while it's there.
Is Bank of America in the Bitcoin business?
Absolutely not. Here's the way we think about this. There are two different concepts to separate here. Digital currency. We've had digital currency for years and years. A wire transfer is the movement of money digitally. Those are established, they are regulated, the practices around them are transparent. We know who is the sender and who is the receiver of everything we send. Anonymous currency is a whole different thing. And the idea around Bitcoin is to ensure that the sender and the receiver are unknown. And that, by definition, flies in the face of everything the financial system does to protect not only U.S. citizens, but the world. All day long, we'll drive for the digital movement of money. It's efficient, and we've already talked about its protection. But anonymous currency flies in the face of what the financial, of every construct known to transparency in the movement of money and how we use it to prevent and detect other really important forms of crime.
Representatives, legislation, all this stuff, FUD on cryptocurrency. Guys, don't believe the FUD. Why? Because on the back end, guys, banks are clamoring to get into the Bitcoin and blockchain revolution. Here's one example, guys, where it just shows you that you cannot listen to the FUD of mainstream media. Banks are getting bigly in the Bitcoin game, guys. They're getting bigly into the Bitcoin game. Bank of America has filed more cryptocurrency patents than any other company. Come on, guys. When you hear FUD about banks, and then you read stuff like this, that Bank of America has filed more cryptocurrency patents than anyone else, it's a smokescreen, guys. It's a smokescreen. Banks love that blockchain. They just don't want to admit it. They just don't want to admit it, guys. Think of cryptocurrency developers and names like Satoshi Nakamoto, Gavin Andreessen, and Nick Szabo spring into mind. Individuals who place principles ahead of profit and are more aligned with open source principles than filing patents and closely guarding their secrets. The only secret Satoshi guarded was his identity. It may come as a surprise then to learn that in the past decade, the company that has the more cryptocurrency patents than any other in its many Bitcoiners' eyes, the antithesis of everything decentralized currency stands for, is Bank of America. Since Bitcoin's Genesis block was mined 9 years ago, over 2,000 related patents have been filed. Bitcoin Patent Report reveals. In the cryptocurrency's early years, the number of patents was low, averaging under 50 a year. But by 2015, that figure began to pick up, and by 2016 was growing exponentially. Some of the companies whose names featured in the top 10 are to be expected, such as Bitflyer and IBM, whose interest in blockchain is well documented. The computing giant has filed a total of 34 cryptocurrency-related patents, but is outpaced by South Korean brokerage CoinPlug, which is third on the list with 39. Some entrants on the list are unexpected either because they have publicly expressed little interest in cryptocurrency or are not commonly associated with cutting-edge technology. It makes sense that MasterCard would have an interest in digital payment systems, for example, but it's surprising to see them ranked 9th for cryptocurrency-related patents with 21. But even then, 21 patents for MasterCard in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space is nothing to laugh at. The greatest surprise of all is reserved for the top spot, which is claimed by Bank of America, also known as the government.
We are straight talking actually more in the direction now of shadow banking, the real world, because the official world is not the real world. The world where I was living in was a world, everything is possible. You can switch identity by day, you can fake any paper you want in this world. Mm-hmm. We create our own rules, but the rules are always coming from, let's say, upstairs. Eh? And that's the mechanism, the BIS. The BIS is the most important one.
And who owns the BIS? Can we identify the stakeholders?
Officially, the owners of the BIS are known, of course, like they're all, the stakeholders are all the other central banks, like it's a sort of collective of owners.
The collateral of a country and the wealth of a country is collateralized by the human beings, correct?
Yes,
right.
It's based on your birthright.
Right, so the human being is born and is issued a birth bond or a treasury certificate, a number against that birth with a value to that.
Yeah.
But they never thought about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, did they?
They did.
You believe that they're engineering all of that? You don't believe that is a natural human organic response to central banking and fiat? Is crypto and smart contracts? Is our way of throwing this devil off the back?
Even on the internet, you can find a white paper from the NSA from 1995. They were already describing everything you have now in present, like cryptocurrencies. It's the first and the second generation of cryptocurrencies. They have a lot of backdoors. They are not free. I'm very happy and aware that step by step, people start to choose different.
Right.
But about the cryptocurrencies, it was all created by secret services. Now, in the third and the fourth generations, people are taking the tools to use it in a positive way.
Very good.
So there are positive things going, but my reaction was more in the direction of in general, the masses, the billions of people.
Yes.
Who are still have no clue.
And just follow whatever.
Yeah, and they have no clue about anything because they are children. They have the inner child and they have children of their own. And we have to take care of this with all the people who are able to do this.
为什么强大的国家都会走向灭亡呢？古希腊、罗马帝国、不列颠帝国、美国，因为他们都犯同样的错误，与原来使得他们成功的原则背道而驰。美国政府企图以庞大的开支和税收来摆脱严重的经济衰退，巨额的所谓刺激开支。 庞大的医疗改革，政府接管私有企业，债务累累。当然，我们是他们的大债主。现在他们都得给我们干活。
But I pay special attention to the cashless society. Blockchain technology. Bitcoin, the thing I want to know is that what value, what things that the Bitcoin can bring to the society. But behind the Bitcoin, the technology itself really very powerful. So my job and Alibaba Alipay's job is trying to making sure that we will move, the world will move into a cashless society. The society can make everybody equal, make everybody inclusive to get the money they need, and making sure it's sustainable, inclusive, and transparent. I hate corruption. I don't have opportunity, it's okay. But I don't want somebody through dirty way take away my opportunity. This is why we want a cashless society. But Bitcoin, we watch it very carefully. I will not say I'm a fan of Bitcoins. I'm always also as curious as you are. And I don't think I'm expert on that. I don't pretend I know.
What distinguishes cryptocurrency from fiat? Number one, it is a peer-to-peer transaction. It is trustless. And far more important, it is permissionless. There is a principle that I know is true, and I think you all believe it in your hearts, and that is that power corrupts, and that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Can you trust a corrupt system? No, I don't think so. So what are we doing today? Here in Malta, out of the goodness of the Maltese government's hearts, they are creating a crypto community which is accepted by, promoted by, and permitted by the government. I am thankful for that for one reason. It will allow our community to grow because it will have some degree of respectability. And hopefully other governments will do the same. But you must understand something. This movement into acceptance by governments, banks, and those in control can only be temporary. Because what is cryptocurrency? Number one, permissionless. And we are begging governments to permit us to use a permissionless system. See the contradiction, people. It is a trustless system because of the beauty of the mathematics that underlies and powers the system. And yet you want to trust an untrustworthy entity to permit you to use a trustless, permissionless system. This would be the definition of insanity if you were in a psychologist's office. So, sir, your problem is you want a trustless, permissionless system, but you want someone that you cannot trust to permit you to use this system. You would be committed. Now, why did I say this is temporary? Because all the permissions in the world, all the regulations and laws and legislations involving cryptocurrency will be totally meaningless as soon as distributed exchanges that are fully functional are available to all of us. Now, why is that so important? Because legislation only works if it can be enforced. How are we being forced now to accept regulations? Exchanges are centralized and located somewhere. I spoke in China, well, actually in Hong Kong last year. We were supposed to speak in Beijing, but just before we were due to have the conference, China outlawed cryptocurrency and shut down every exchange. Now, that didn't stop cryptocurrency. In fact, there's more cryptocurrency trading in China today than before the law was passed. Nevertheless, they did shut down in China those exchanges. If all governments acted unilaterally and shut down all exchanges, it would shut down us. Why? Because they can. A centralized exchange has an office, a set of servers. It is located somewhere and manned by specific people. Find them, pull the plug on the electricity, arrest all the people, break the machines with axes or set fire to the building, and we're down. But what is a distributed exchange? It's an exchange that runs on tens of millions of devices, your smartphones, your laptops, your desktops. It has no geographic location. It does not raise a flag saying, I am part of an exchange. No, it is fluid, ever-changing and ever-moving. Mathematically, technologically, physically, it cannot be shut down. Meaning what? Make whatever regulations you like. You may only use my cryptocurrency, which is generated by the American government or the Chinese government, or you must report all transactions, and yet you're using Monero, and who the hell is going to find out? No, how do you enforce it? Laws that cannot be enforced are meaningless. So what is happening here in Malta and in other countries with the, quote, acceptance of cryptocurrency, which is basically the regulation of cryptocurrency, for the purposes of making us more real, less frightening, more available, which is perfect, in 5 years will mean nothing. You must understand this. Those of you who say, we must have regulations to protect those poor fools who fall for scams, or can't read an entire white paper, or can't Google a name to find out whether this person is real or not. And you want to protect them. Well, good luck with that, because you can't. We cannot protect people from themselves. You must accept this, because whether you like it or not, the mob will rule in the end. And the mob will say, okay, make what rules you want. I will buy what I damn well please and sell what I damn well please and say nothing to anybody, no matter what law you make, because I can. And if you can, you will. Those of you who believe that we are fundamentally, and have I gone over time? I have? Am I over time? No. Those of you who believe that people are fundamentally honest and will do the right thing, you've been living in a closet or something, because that is not people. People will break the laws that they choose if they know that they can do so with absolute freedom whenever they choose, and you know this for a fact. This has been the dream of humanity since the dawn of time. Look at what you have in your friggin' hands, people. The gift of fire, one of the greatest gifts, if you want to call it a gift, changed civilization. But that gift will pale compared to the gift of the blockchain.
So in 2013, we wanted to do it, and we said too early. 2015, when I left OKCoin, I wanted to do it, but we looked at the market. At that time, Poloniex was there, but we said it was still too early. The volume is quite small. And 2017, we took a look. We said, oh, the market is pretty big. We got to do it. So it's not a new idea. We've been thinking about it for quite a while. It's just the timing of it. We decided to do it in 2017.
Well, they say timing is everything, and I guess you're living proof that timing is everything. What do you think were the biggest factors in your success?
Well, I think timing is a very, very big factor. I think luck is a very big factor, to be honest, for any successful people or person or company. But at the same time, I think people think of Binance as 1 year, but it's really 20 years for us.
So you've been thinking about exchanges and working in exchanges, financial exchanges, for the last 20 years?
Me personally, yes, and more than half of my core team have been with me for 10 years, have been working with me for 10 years in the trading space. And even before Binance, for the last 2 years before Binance, we were developing trading systems, exchange systems. So we had a product ready even before Binance. So Binance is kind of new, but we had the systems ready, we had a team, and then we didn't have customer support, we didn't have marketing, but we added those two pieces as part of Binance. But quite a lot of it was done before. So we had a lot of preparation, and we worked really, really hard.
And in 1 year, you became what is the biggest exchange today, and it's made you one of the most powerful people in crypto. Why do you think people came to Binance as opposed to the other exchanges? What was it about Binance that attracted everyone to Binance?
So I think there's a couple of different angles. On one part is the more fundamental part, which is you got to have a good product, good service. I think our service is okay, to be honest. It's not perfect. I really want to improve it, but I think in the industry we're kind of good compared to others. But I think the other big part is your ethical, your behavior. So we want there's a lot of dodgy stuff that goes on in the crypto space. We want to be the most ethical, most powerful exchange. So that's our philosophy. We really want to protect users. We actually don't say that a lot publicly, but people understand it. People are smart. So people tell other people we're a good exchange.
We actually use our power. We have a lot of responsibility. We have to use our power very carefully. We're very careful about the projects we support because whichever one we say we support, everybody rushes in. We bear the responsibility.
Now, how big is the operation today? How many people work at Binance today?
So today, I think we're under 250 people. I think we're 238, 39 people, the total team size. Compared to other exchanges, I think most of the other exchanges in the top 10 are more than 1,000 people. So we have a very small team.
So you arguably are now the #1 exchange in the world. What's your strategy going forward?
So I think basically crypto is just the beginning. We're just at the beginning of the crypto space. There's a lot more coins coming out. There's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of good projects. So I think as an exchange, we're the liquidity provider. If you think about cryptocurrency, the blood of the economy, we're the heart. We're pumping the blood, right? So we're making everything circulate. So I think our job is to identify good projects, help them. And so this is why we have the Binance Labs, which invest in earlier stage projects. We have Launchpad, which is an ICO platform. We haven't really used it too much because we're too busy with exchange. So we want to push that. We also have a lot of social responsibility. So we now have a Binance Charity Foundation. We have made a few donations in Africa already. So there's a lot of stuff, and also Binance Academy, which is a research arm for Binance, and also Binance Info, which is an information distribution platform. So all of those stuff, I'm actually not too involved. I'm only involved on the exchange part because that's the only thing I know how to do. I want to hire the best people to run those other branches or departments, and I just do what I do best.
Now, you talk about all using Binance Coin, and there was news earlier this year that you guys are launching a decentralized exchange. Yes. What's the logic of launching a decentralized exchange if you are the biggest centralized exchange?
Right, so I believe that decentralized exchange is the future. I don't know when that future will come here yet. So again, I think we're at an early stage for that. So I don't know if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I don't know, but we got to be ready for it. So we're now actively investing our efforts, our time into it. We have a dedicated team working on this. I'm hoping to see a prototype within a couple of months.
So do you see the decentralized exchange eventually eliminating the current centralized exchange?
I think this depends on how long, what time frame you're looking at. If you're talking about 5 to 10 years, I think yeah.
And is this because of security issues and hack issues, or is it a much bigger thing?
I think it's a much bigger thing. I think centralized exchanges right now have much higher efficiency, so much higher trading volume. And that actually today, I think Binance is probably more secure than decentralized exchanges. I think that's a misconception for people. But decentralized exchanges will give you more freedom, right? So you can be more anonymous in terms of your trading. You don't have to hold your assets on the exchange. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's safer for you. You just think you have more control, right? The performance of decentralized exchanges will always be slower than centralized ones because if you have 1,000 computers synchronizing with each other versus one computer that just processes it and we're done with it, the decentralized one will be slower. But once they're fast enough, I think many of the volume may over. But I think
Bitcoin's meteoric rise is attracting a ton of attention. But is it ready for the mainstream? JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon recently called Bitcoin a fraud and said that cryptocurrency prices are in a bubble that will eventually burst. Many investors have stayed on the sidelines as cryptocurrencies are seen as too volatile and don't have the safeguards that most financial assets do. A number of hedge funds, however, are investing in cryptocurrencies, and Goldman Sachs is reportedly exploring how it could help clients trade digital tokens. Other companies are stepping up efforts to bring cryptocurrency to the mainstream, opening regulated exchanges, creating futures contracts, and attempting to list exchange-traded funds. The recent surge in cryptocurrency prices has coincided with a flood of interest about the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin, which uses a decentralized and public ledger of transactions that can't be manipulated. IBM, Microsoft, and Toyota have all invested in blockchain and are looking at potential applications ranging from food safety to driverless cars. So what is preventing even more widespread adoption? Regulation, or the lack thereof. In July 2017, the SEC announced that federal securities law may apply to some cryptocurrencies, without providing concrete guidelines to determine which ones. Meanwhile, China has outright banned ICOs, or initial coin offerings, along with the exchanges where coins are traded. Guidelines for individuals that mine and trade cryptocurrencies also vary wildly, with countries like Venezuela going as far as putting miners in jail. So what's next in the year ahead? The cryptocurrency community is eager for clarity from regulators on ICOs, trading, mining, and taxes. As that happens, more investors and end users could dip their toes in the water. Many have compared the current state of blockchain to the early days of the internet, a digital Wild West teeming with opportunity. And just like the internet, there will likely be winners and losers.
China accounted for 90% of Bitcoin trade just 1 year ago. But with Beijing banning initial coin offerings, or ICOs, and regulators shutting down Bitcoin exchanges there, Japan is setting out on a different path, embracing the crypto movement.
Bitcoin trade here in Japan accounts for nearly half the global trade volume. Compare that to 25% in the US. The number has surged since the government passed a new law earlier this year recognizing the digital currency as a legal form of payment.
That law encouraged some big retailers here to partner with Bitcoin exchanges and begin accepting the digital currency. There's already more than 4,500 stores that let you pay with Bitcoin here, and the Nikkei says that number could increase 5-fold by the end of...
I don't suppose you're going to tell me how you do it. How you disappear.
It's there for anyone to see if you know where to look. You have my record already. They do. I gave it to all of you.
The algorithm.
Breaks my life up into fractions of seconds and randomly stores them in the records of everyone else. But if you try to find that split second of me, it would go by without you knowing. You have to have the algorithm to put my entire life back together. If you want to look back.
Any charges, I'll make it all go away before you do.
You invade my privacy, it's nothing. I try to get it back, it's a crime.
Don't you get it? The more you try to hide, the more attention you attract. Why is it so important that nobody knows you? You get rid of other people's secrets, what's yours?
Does there have to be one?
Everyone has something to hide.
That's what you do. What you look for every day of your life. Why you'll never understand. It's not that I have something to hide. I have nothing I want you to see.
That's just the snare, don't be afraid of the snare.
Please without no weeding, do me a favor and save all that Satanist shit. You pagans gon' pay for this shit. I studied theology, ancient philosophy, astronomy, astrology, the current state of the economy. Washington, D.C., fossils of dinosaurs, the origin of our species, my atomic goal, flowers grown in feces, Christ-conscious Python mocking Jesus. The chicken came before the eggs, the thief